Hello, my name is David Timms, and today I will be doing my presentation on contrasting cultural values. A value is a person's principles or standard of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. A cultural value is the core principles and ideals upon which an entire community exists. This is made up of several parts: customs, which are traditions and rituals; values, which are beliefs; and culture, which is all of a group's guiding values. Mm, Today I will be um, contrasting the United States, Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, and India. In order to contrast these countries, you must understand that each country has different cultural dimensions. The first cultural dimension we'll look at today is power distance. The United States has a very low power distance. This means that the individual man can potentially become one of the elite and run the country, while Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, and India have a high power distance. This means that it would be very difficult for an average person to become one of the elite. Normally, these countries have a form of hierarchy to their government, and sometimes in some of these countries, a leader's son would become the next leader. So it gives the individual not a very large opportunity to have to lead the country. The next dimension is we will see if the country is individualistic or collectivistic. Um, the United States is very individualistic. This means that people are worried about themselves mainly, and typically only their immediate family. While Russia, China, and Saudi Arabia are collectivist. This means that people look out for a larger group. Everybody helps each other out in order to survive. And India is both. Is a little bit of both. Um, the next dimension is we will look at is to see if the country is masculine or feminine. The United States, China, Saudi Arabia, and India are all masculine countries. This means that they are driven by competition, achievements, and success, while Russia is a feminine country. This means that people are more into caring for others and the quality of life other than competing to be at the top of a company or something. Um, the next dimension we will look at is uncertainty avoidance. And this uncertainty avoidance is being threatened by ambiguous situations and unknown things and situations. Um, the United States and China are uncertainty tolerant. This means they're okay with things they don't know about. They take risk on things, and they're not really worried about unknown situations. While Russia and Saudi Arabia are uncertainty avoidant. They don't want to take chances and risk on unknown situations or things they don't know the outcome will be. And India is medium to low uncertainty avoidant. The next dimension we will look to see is if the country is long-term oriented or short-term oriented. And every society has to maintain some links with its own past while dealing with challenges of the present and future. And a country will either be normative, which means they keep their traditions and ways of life that are based in the past, or pragmatic, which means countries keep moving forward and aren't as rooted in the past, in the past values. The United States and Saudi Arabia are normative. They keep tradition. They don't want to change the way their country has viewed situations. While um, Russia and China are pragmatic. They're okay with changes. They're not really that deeply rooted in their um, tradition. And India is somewhere in the middle. The next cultural dimension is indulgence. Indulgence is the extent to which people try to control desires and impulses. The United States is very indulgent. That's the American way. They want it now and they don't want to wait. Look at the struggles our country has faced through drug addiction and alcohol abuse. While Russia, China, and India aren't very indulgent. They practice more self-control than us. And Saudi Arabia is could go either way. They're sort of in the middle. In the United States, I mean, punctuality is very valued. People don't want you to come into a meeting late or be late meeting them. Proper greeting is with a handshake, especially in a business sense. The formality of dress depends on the occasion you're meeting. People in the United States don't like small talk. They want to get straight to business, and the deal is more important than the personal relationship built. If bringing a gift to a first meeting really isn't advised because gifts may be considered to be a bribe, especially if it's expensive. Race is a sensitive topic in America, so be sure to refer to someone of different ethnicities as Italian American or Asian American, for example. That way, you still give them their cultural identity with the United States, and you won't offend them if you do it this way. Don't intrude on people's personal space. Americans do not like to be to have their space intruded upon. They're not physical with their emotions. And women typically tend to be treated as equals in the workplace in America. Although their pay may vary from that of their male counterpart, women like to be treated equal in American business though. In Russia, a handshake is acceptable for meeting acquaintances. But you always take off your gloves, or else it may be taken as a sign of disrespect. Formal clothes are the normal attire. People like about an arm's length of personal space. Bringing a gift to an initial meeting is common. Something with your company logo or representation of your country is a very good idea. Punctuality has not always been a value there. People are typically still late to meetings, but it is becoming more of a value, so keep that in mind. Chivalry is expected to be shown towards women by men. When men are expected to hold the door open for women and be polite in that manner in Russia. Going out for a drink is recommended when building relationships in the business world. It shows interest in strengthening the relationship between two people, and it promotes goodwill. Meetings usually begin with small talk. Business meetings may have an agenda, but interruptions are common and they should be expected. It's rude to point with a finger in Russia. Instead, use the whole hand. The American OK sign and thumbs up are rude gestures in Russia. So keep that in mind. In China, you shake hands when greeting and departing. and sometimes you accompany it with a nod of the head. Chinese uh, are comfortable standing a little less than arm's length from one another, so personal space is not as big as an issue as it is in America. Punctuality is valued in China, like in America. Gifts are not usually exchanged at the first meeting. Um, Conservative business clothes are the are what's accepted to wear. China is still a male-dominated society, but women are becoming more and more equal, holding value various positions of power in business and government. Give and receive business cards with two hands. It is polite to look at the card after you receive them with interest and examine them carefully. It's best to place them on the table in front of you and be sure to never write on a card you're given. Small talk is important in meetings in China. In Saudi Arabia, when greeting someone of the same sex, a handshake is acceptable, but that is using your right hand only, because the left hand is considered unclean in their culture. Physical greetings between different sexes are not acceptable. There is a decent amount of touching between members of the same gender during conversations. It is common for two men to walk hand in hand. This does not have any implication on their sexual preferences. It's just a sign of friendship and closeness. Women in Saudi Arabia are expected to act feminine. They are not allowed to speak their opinion in most circles. They are expected to obey male authority. Conservative business clothing is acceptable for men and foreign women. Direct eye contact is acceptable for people of the same sex. Indirect eye contact to no eye contact is acceptable for people of opposite sexes. Gifts aren't usually given at the initial meeting. It's best to avoid giving gifts until a very strong bond has formed between you and that person. When negotiating, Saudi Arabians are barterers, so be expected to barter. Don't point the toe or heel or any part of the foot at any person. It is considered disrespectful. Don't disrespect anyone's family name because it is our tribe, because it is the ultimate form of rudeness. And tight and revealing clothing is considered extremely rude. In India, light handshakes are common after the initial namaste. Sometimes the namaste alone will suffice. In formal and business situations, it is usually best to let the women initiate contact, if at all. The comfortable amount of personal space during conversation in India varies with different subcultures. Hindus tend to stand about 3 or 3.5 feet apart. Some eye contact is expected in business, but it's not a big deal, especially is not as big deal as in other cultures. It is not necessary to bring a gift to the first meeting, although it will be accepted graciously. Avoid alcohol, leather, pigskin, dog-related gifts, or white flowers, which are associated with funerals. And these gifts could offend someone because of their religion. Never open a gift in the presence of the giver. Dress is quite conservative for both men and women. Indians are non-confrontational and value relationship building and harmony, so avoid hard selling. Do not publicly disagree with anyone when you're negotiating in India. You must maintain harmony at all costs, or else it will be considered disrespectful and rude. Thank you.